As we all know, Candace Owens is spinning a lot of suggestions that there's all sorts of conspiracies out there about who killed Charlie. It's fine to ask questions. It's fine to suggest that maybe this happened, maybe that happened, but it's not fine to insinuate that people are guilty of murder or they're in some sort of murder conspiracy unless you have really strong evidence. My friend Mikey McCoy, whom I talked to today, is getting death threats. I get what appear to be death threats. You never know what can happen to you. In fact, before Charlie, these gentlemen were not with me. Before Charlie, we didn't even have a police officer in the back of the room. Why do we need that now? The Bible is very clear. You need 2 witnesses to convict somebody. You don't gossip. You don't slander people. Unfortunately, I think too much of that is going on. So far, I've heard that Candace and others, it's not just Candace, have suggested Netanyahu killed him, Israel killed him, Trump killed him, TPUSA killed him, Mikey McCoy, his dad Rob McCoy had something to do with it, the FBI, Egypt. I heard France today. I thought all France did was surrender. Now, let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. Unless those possible culprits in Charlie's murder all work together on some grand conspiracy, that most of what is being said about this has to be false. Do you see the point? If you're going to suggest all these different people are involved, they can't all be involved. It strains credulity to say they're all somehow involved. Maybe one of them did it. But that means most of what's being said about this is false. And what if the guy who actually has been charged with the crime really did it? Then every single thing that is being said regarding conspiracies, if he acted alone, is certainly false. Now, the trial is probably not going to be for at least another year. We can't keep spinning conspiracy theories without evidence. People are going to get hurt. So I plead, if you're watching this kind of stuff, or you know people that are, you need to say, hey, it's okay to ask questions. It's not okay to insinuate people are guilty unless you have really strong evidence. In fact, if I were to say, I really think Candace Owens did this. I really think she did. You know why? Because Charlie stopped inviting her to the big events. And she thought if she could get rid of Charlie, then maybe they'd ask her to be the head of Turning Point. And she's bringing all this up, citing all these other people to cover her own tracks. And I really think she's jealous of Erica too. I think she's the one that did this. This all checks out. Would that be fair? No, it's not fair. It's ridiculous. I have no evidence for it. But I submit to you, that appears to be what she's doing, knowingly or unknowingly, to people for which she has no evidence they were involved. I need to say one other thing about this. Candace makes a big deal of Mikey McCoy turning away and immediately getting on his phone when Charlie was shot. She said there's only 3 possible things you can do in a situation like this. You either run toward the problem, you run away from the problem, or you freeze. Candace Owens doesn't know what she's talking about here. Because these men in these rooms will tell you that when a traumatic event occurs, if they're trained to do something, they automatically do it. I was in the Navy. We had emergency procedures. You practice those emergency procedures over and over again, so when the disaster strikes, you don't even have to think. You just do it. Why did I run to get in the car? Because I thought beforehand, if Charlie ever gets shot and I'm there, I'm going to do whatever I can to help. Didn't even need to think about it. Charlie drilled into Mikey, who at the time was only 23 years old. Drilled into him. If anything ever happens to me, the first thing you do is call Erica. Why would he run to Charlie when Charlie has 6 guys around him carrying him to the car? All he would do would be get in the way. Mikey did exactly what he was trained to do. Now, once the trial comes out, we'll find out the truth, the ultimate truth. But let's not insinuate people are guilty unless you have really, really good evidence. Oh, I have to say this too. Sorry, I just keep going on. But people don't seem to understand how prosecutions work. I mean, you had the case here with Kohlberg. What's his name? Kohlberger. How many people were spinning conspiracy theories about that? And frustrated because we weren't getting enough information from the prosecution. My friend J. Warner Wallace, who has prosecuted many cases, he's a cold case homicide detective. I had him on the show about a month ago to talk about these conspiracy theories. He said the prosecution will never reveal what they have before they have to. Why? Let me just give you one example. Suppose they're investigating a second shooter, and I submit to you they probably are. Why? Because in the trial, the defense team is going to say, did you investigate the second shooter? Yeah, we did. But if they come out and say, we're investigating a second shooter, if a witness comes forward and says, oh, I saw the second shooter, they don't know if that witness really saw the second shooter or that person is making stuff up so he can make a name for himself. In the jury pool, they can't tip off the defense. The prosecution's job is to convict the real killer. The prosecution's job is not to have an ongoing soap opera on YouTube to tell you what they have. That would defeat their responsibility of convicting the real killer. And I can tell you they are tracking down conspiracy theories. Why? Because I was the subject of one of them. And I was the guy in the white hat next to Charlie, who people said that I was signaling the shooter, which is the stupidest thing in the world, ladies and gentlemen. If a shooter is on a roof somewhere, he can't see me anyway if he's looking through a scope. I mean, here was Charlie. I was about right where Ty is here. He can't see me anyway. And why would he need me to, or anybody to signal who Charlie Kirk is? Charlie Kirk's the only guy under the tent with the microphone. So the FBI called me. Said, sorry, I have to ask you this. I'm so sorry, but were you signaling the shooter? Yeah, I was telling him to steal second base. I mean, why do people believe this stuff? It's ridiculous. So they are checking into conspiracy theories, but they're not going to tell you about it, because if they tell you about it, it defeats what they're trying to accomplish. And that is find and convict the real killer.